Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Hammering Down. I'm your host, Kaylor Hodges, and I'm hoping you're having a great day. Before we get into this, I want to go ahead and tell you, if you're listening to this on Podcast Player, look at the YouTube channel. It's going to be it's just called Hammering Down, just like the name of the podcast. And I want you to look at the YouTube channel because I have slides and video and stuff that goes with this. I'm trying to make this a better YouTube product. I'm trying to do the YouTube thing. And I realize I can do this all at once. So give it a shot. If you want to stick on Podcast Player, you're not really going to miss anything. You just might have a couple of visual aids that you won't get. But I am here to talk about the 2024 Birmingham Legion initial roster decision. Before we get into that, though, we had a couple of sort of announcements that came through. We had a couple of things that were posted by the Three Sparks, and I want to first read the statement put out by Birmingham Legion social media and Jay Heaps, and I want to read it verbatim. Says, "Dear Legion FC fans, as we close the chapter on the 2024 season, I want to thank you for your loyal support. Your passion, energy, and loyalty have been the heartbeat of the club, and we are deeply grateful for everything you do for Legion Nation. The past season was frustrating, and we fell short of the standard we set for ourselves on the field. As a club, we share in your disappointment and have already started to reshape our roster for the 2025 season. We have made strides in the infrastructure of the club with the completion of the train facility with additional capital from both our current investors and new investors. These moves are part of a larger vision to ensure sustained success for Birmingham Legion FC. As we look ahead to 2025, we are fully focused on improving our performance on the field. This team fights and plays for you, the fans, and you deserve a club that reflects your pride and dedication. We promise to work tirelessly to make the necessary changes to put ourselves in the best position to compete for silverware next year. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you back in the stands next season. Hammer down." That is, again, statement put out by Jay Heaps via the Birmingham Legion social media pages. Before we get into the video that was posted with this, and this is where I go to the fancy new graphics. Whoa. I want to start off with the roster decisions. And the very first thing here is going to be that Tommy Soehn will be returning as the head coach for Birmingham Legion. This was confirmed by the club that he will be returning. And I'm going to let you marinate in that. And while you do so, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the video that you are going to listen to. It's about 2-ish minutes long, and it's Jay Heaps, Tommy Soehn talking. So give it a listen. And this is from courtesy of Birmingham Legion FC on social media. I am listening to this via Twitter. So that is where this is coming from.
Hey, Legion fans, Jay Heaps, President GM, Tom Soehn, head coach. Thanks again for your support of the 2024 season. While the results didn't go our way on the field, it was disappointing. We always want to be fighting for playoffs and fighting for championships. We're excited about the opportunities in 2025.
Yeah, I echo that. It's an important year, and I think a lot of stuff we did also built to this year. And, we didn't make the playoffs, and playoffs and trophies are our goal. So we're coming back in 25, and we're going to be ready for it.
Yeah, and as much as it's not said or written, some of the infrastructure things that we did in 2024, preparing for 2025 and the future. We had a training facility completed. We've got new investment coming in from local owners. So really excited about the trajectory of our club. And it's really important that we focus on 2025 by building the right roster, by getting players here that we know are going to help us compete every day.
Yeah, I think about this training complex and being able to start from here for the first time is going to be tremendous advantage. The roster building we're doing now it's been really exciting. I think it's going to change. The additions that we have will solidify things with the guys we've kept, and really make it an exciting start to the season for us. And obviously our expectations are a lot higher.
That's right. And our work, it really started, at the end of 2024, the regular season, started preparing for 25. what players we're going to keep, players we're going to sign that are going to make us that much better in 25. So it's been a long season for us, but make it be known that we are really focused on 25 and being the best team we can. And thank you to our fans in 2024. It's great that you stuck with us, and we really need your support as we continue to lay this groundwork for 25. Excited to see you in Protective.
Yeah, and I would say the roster we're building, nothing makes them more excited than seeing fans in the stands supporting us. So I appreciate your support and look forward to 2025.
Hammer down.
And as we kind of think about everything that this entails, I want to first off talk about the statements. And the first thing that I kind of want to just sprinkle in, we actually got statements. I know some people are going to say they came out too late, that they waited way too long, whatever. When's the last time that you have seen a formal statement put out by Jay Heaps, Tommy Soehn, where they were on camera and microphone? And I know you'll say the pregame previews, and if you watch those preview interviews where they just kind of say, hey, we're working hard, we want to win, we want to make the playoffs, and it's the same thing for like 2 months. This was different than that. And this felt like a real step in communication, a real step in, what's the word? Accountability, where I know some people are going to say it's not real accountability unless the coach or the GM is fired after not making the playoffs. And I'll hear you on that. But I think putting a face and voice to these statements helps. A lot of times we would get these canned responses in little blurbs and articles that we never saw, how they said it. Were they upset? Were they happy? Were they joking? Were they angry? What were they? They're just canned responses. And this makes Tommy and Jay more human again. And look, if you go through any of the social medias, it could either be Reddit, X/Twitter, Instagram. You could check Blue Sky. You can check any of them, and they're all going to kind of say the same thing. We want Tommy Soehn fired. Here's what I'm going to say about Tommy Soehn coming back, and this will be the last thing I kind of say on the matter. He's only missed the playoffs once, and it came after a year where everybody got injured, where we had 5, 6 different goalkeepers take the field. I think it was 5, 7 goalkeepers who made the bench for us. You see that we had our only starting striker go down. And I mentioned in the past that I think that last year's failures come down to one of 3 things, or maybe 2 to 3 things, 2 to 3 of the 3 things. One, it was either a coaching issue, a scouting issue, or an ownership issue. It was a combination of those 3 things. The ownership and the GM, president, Jay Heaps, came to the conclusion that Tommy Soehn was the correct coach for the job, which means that it's time for options 2 and 3 to step up. If the ownership views that Tommy Soehn is the right guy, then they better open their pocketbooks and start throwing money at people outright. And I think that was kind of hinted, if I'm being honest. I want you to look at the thing that we kind of read before, and some people were getting kind of mad at this. Is like, oh, I'm so glad that we have more capital for the owners. But it said that they have additional capital from both current investors and new investors. That's a fun way of saying our owners gave us more money. The owners are opening up their pocketbook. So it's time to start signing players that fit the pocketbook. It's time for scouting to do a job and go get proven USL guys. You don't need to go all over the world to find people. You just don't have to do it. So that's kind of my thoughts on the matter. Now that ownership and Jay have decided that Tommy Soehn is the right coach for the job, now it's on them to get it done. Because if they continue to not give him what he needs to succeed, that's firmly their fault by their own decision. Let's look at who's returning, why don't we? Goalkeeper Matt Van Okel, Trevor Spangenberg are returning in net, while Fernando Delgado is returning as well. He was officially announced via transfer from Real Monarchs / Real Salt Lake. The 18-year-old is returning back to us after getting a few games with us and then just kind of seemingly disappearing into the night. But you are seeing the return of Fernando Delgado. He is the first official signing for the Three Sparks this year. In the defense, we have Fanuel Kavita, AJ Patterson, Moses Mensah, and Ramis Amuda returning as well. Where, by the way, we had a fun little rumor come out via Transfermarkt that Ramis Amuda has picked up some interest via Werder Bremen in the Bundesliga. Now, according to FIFA regulation, Rami Zamuda cannot leave and sign internationally until he's 18 years old. That is not a Legion thing. That's not a USL thing. That's not a Bundesliga thing. That's a FIFA thing. So he cannot go internationally until he's 18 years old. Now, Legion could decide to sell him inside of the continent to MLS, and that's fine. They can get their payday, or they can hold on to him until he's 18, sell him on somewhere else. It's kind of like what they're doing with Matthew Corcoran. Let's go ahead and look at this next part. Enzo Martinez, Kobe Hernandez Foster, Jake Roof, and Matthew Corcoran are returning. Now, let me circle Kobe Hernandez Foster and Matthew Corcoran, especially Matthew Corcoran. Just because it says he's returning does not mean he'll be back next year. And you might be saying, what does that mean? Well, we also announced that Junior Flemings would be returning a few weeks, maybe a week before we announced that we sold him for a good bit of money. That was already a planned deal that you have to say you're bringing him back in order for him to be under contract, in order for you to sell him. Same thing for Kobe. I don't know if Kobe has a lot of interest internationally, but he could. But Matthew Corcoran is the big one here, where I don't think he's going to be here. Again, this is not any. I'm not saying anything to you guys listening to this that is like, yeah, man, club is leaking that we're selling him immediately. Just read the tea leaves. He's not going to be long for here, and this is purely a he's coming back because we're selling him kind of situation. Let's just be real with ourselves. And for forwards that are coming back that were announced to come back, is Tyler Pasher, Dawson McCartney, and Preston Taborteka, or Taborteka and Preston, whichever one. I always get confused which order it is, I'll be honest. So, who's leaving? Announced as leaving is Alex Cronale, center back. Derek Dodson is returning on loan to Minnesota United, who Minnesota United has already announced that they are not picking up his option, meaning he is a free agent. Miguel Perez is returning to St. Louis City FC, where they have already said that they did pick up his option. And Mikey Lopez, the first ever captain of Birmingham Legion FC, is not coming back. I'm going to talk about some of these in a minute, more deep. It was also announced that Prosper Kasim will not be returning, Demon Wegbo will not be returning, and Stefano Pino will not be returning. Now, something interesting about Demon Wegbo that kind of showed up, and don't ask me to pronounce this team's name, but Demon Wegbo is being linked with a club in Bulgaria. The only thing I can find about them on social media is that they have a really good volleyball team. Either way, he is linked to go there. It appears to be some kind of agent, but he has also never broken that kind of news before. So take it with a grain of salt. But with him being announced to not be returning, it gives those rumors a lot of validity. Let's look at what are we replacing. So I'm going to talk pretty deeply about Prosper, about Mikey, about Alex especially. But in order to know what we're replacing, I need you to kind of just think through some stuff with me. In a 34 match season, which is the normal league season, each team will play the minimum 3,060 minutes. Okay. And I say, like, that is the full team. That's how much they'll play. So you need to have 11 players on the field at all times, unless you get a red card, uh, for 3,060 minutes. Okay. So that is also not including US Open Cup runs where you're guaranteed at least 90 minutes. We're not going to worry about that. But Legion need to cover 3,060 minutes of 11 people on the field. And here's where I kind of do just a little bit of math. And why are we saying minutes versus goals or assists or clearances or saves or whatever? The reason is because think about it, and I kind of started thinking about this like with baseball. If you see what Major League Baseball is doing, starting pitchers are just kind of needed to quote unquote eat innings. They need to get through a certain amount of innings so their bullpen doesn't get taxed. We are trying to cover as many minutes as we can so we don't have to get to our bench. Or if we are using someone as a bench piece, we need to cover those super sub minutes. Okay. So what I did was over the last 3 years, which gets us back to 2021. So I'm cutting out the COVID year and I'm not worrying about 2019 because those are like legit 5 years ago and those are just different players. And some of those players weren't here. So I did over the last 3 years their average minutes with Birmingham Legion. So people like Devin Wegbo, Stefano Pino, Miguel Perez, Derek Dodson, they were not in Birmingham 3 years ago. So I'm not going to count that against them. So here's the average. Alex Carnale averaged 2,713 minutes every year he was with the Legion. Derek Dodson played 2,051 minutes last year. Miguel Perez played just under 700 minutes with 695. Mikey Lopez, I'm giving him 2 minutes because last year he didn't play a single minute on the field due to injury. So I'm only going to count him as 2 seasons where he played 1,657 minutes over those 2 seasons. Prosper Kasim just under 2,000 with 1,953 minutes. Devin Wegbo over the last 2 seasons played 1,234 minutes. Actually, this one's kind of fun. He played 1,234.5 minutes. So he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's fun. And Stefano Pino last year played 1,726 minutes. Okay, that's a lot of numbers. So let's talk about that 3,000 number. Alex Carnale pretty much played every game he wasn't suspended. He played the full game that he wasn't suspended for. So you're looking at someone who needs to play about 7/8 of the season. You're looking for a center back that can play 7/8 of the season. You're looking for a right back who can play about 2/3 of the season. You're looking between Miguel Perez and Mikey Lopez. You're realistically looking at someone who can play half the season ish via super sub minutes. Prosper Kasim, you're looking at someone who could play 2/3 of the season, which is every single game as a super sub, or you are coming in and you are starting about 2/3 of the games. Devin Wegbo, you are looking at someone who's about 1/3 of the minutes. Again, this is super sub numbers. Stefano Pino, looking at almost perfectly half of the minutes. So you're looking at someone who is either a super sub or starts half the games. So spot starts, super sub stuff. So if you're looking at all that, I think that there is an order to things. I think that we have the most obvious holes is going to be center back. We have 2 center back options right now in Jake Roof and AJ Patterson. Striker, you have one option in Preston, but even with Pino, he was only getting about half the minutes. It was truly striker by committee, which obviously didn't work. Right back, you only have one real option, and that is Jake Roof, which is okay. He does a job, but that's your only option. You're looking at someone to cover 2/3 of the season there. In central midfield, look, I mean, Matthew Corcoran's not going to be around. Let's be honest with ourselves. So you're going to be looking at some holes. All right. Let me go back to players who were not mentioned in this press release. Owen Jack, Jonathan Philpott, Brock Marlowe. Those three were not mentioned. And it said that you would hear more information about these players if they were not mentioned explicitly in the press release. Owen Jack, Jonathan Philpott were both on short-term contracts. They really were not a part of this conversation. Brock Marlowe is Legion FC 2. He is their starting goalkeeper, and he is at university, is at UAB. Rita Zaire. Now, this one's interesting. He was released by Montreal, and he did not have returning to club via loan, which I'm trying to read some tea leaves. I think that they are in active contract negotiations with Rita, because Derek Dodson and Miguel Perez, specifically Derek Dodson said that he was returned. He was returning on from his loan to Minnesota despite being released. Rita was also released and was not saying that he was returning from his loan. I think they're in contract negotiations. Finn Callaway was not mentioned. He is going to is next year in high school, or is next year his first year in college? I don't remember. It's one of the two. Mohamed Bouyatore was not mentioned. He hasn't been around for such a long time. I almost wonder if they forgot that he was on the team, because I kind of think he kind of ends up becoming more of a fun fact than a real part of this. And then Darwin Mateus was not outright mentioned in the press release, despite the initial press release saying that he was going to be coming back for 2025. I'm fascinated by what's going on with Darwin. Now, this could be he's already been sold somewhere. They could be in active contract negotiations to sell him somewhere. He could have been released, or they just forgot to write him down. Like, they could have very well just forgotten to write him down in the returning list. That is possible. But Darwin Mateus, not mentioned. So we'll keep an eye on that. I want to go to what our starting 11 would look like. I have a projected starting 11 here on the screen, where, I mean, this is doing a lot of just kind of guessing, to be completely honest. It's just a whole lot of guessing and a whole lot of just, what's the word? Just implying some things. We kind of know that Legion go to this 4-2-3-1 or this 4-3-3 quite often. Where we're looking at Matt Van Oekel or Fernando Delgado in net. I think Spangenberg is going to be the GK2 to one of those two. Now, we could see Matt Van Oekel take over the GK3 and be a full-on goalkeeper coach and have him be an emergency option, or he could continue to start and Delgado be GK3. But I think Spangenberg is going to be your GK2 no matter what. Moses Mensah is going to be locking down that left-hand side with Rami Zamuda as his backup. You can also say AJ Patterson, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Now, you're going to be looking at your left center back or right center back. I think I have this wrong on the graphic. I think that you're going to have – it's an open spot. I don't think AJ Patterson is the goal here. I think AJ Patterson is going to be a backup to somebody this year. We kind of saw last year he didn't have the pace really to do the center back thing all the time or the wing back thing. I think that he's honestly best playing as the number 6 as a defensive midfielder, but we have currently 2 of those, really 3 if you're looking at Corcoran, Hernandez Foster, or Enzo Martinez. Those 3 can really do a great job at the CDM. Then you have Famuel Kavita with his backup being Jake Roof. And then right back is an open spot with Jake Roof kind of being the backup or could even spot start. At the right wing, you're looking at Tyler Patcher. Sometimes you can see Preston there. On the left wing, you have Dawson McCartney with Preston as his backup or up. And then you have up top, it's an open spot or Preston. Now, I think Preston could or even should start. That's what happened in 2023, where he came in and he was starting up top for the Legion. I think that could be something, but we didn't see that really at all in 2024. So I'm just kind of saying that's not an option. Enzo will probably move back to CDM and be the other pair to Matthew or to Kobe Hernandez Foster whenever Corcoran leaves. I think that Enzo is going to be that kind of double pivot with Hernandez Foster, and probably like we saw at the end of last year with Rita Zaire, if he ends up coming back or whomever takes over that cam role full time, is going to be up top in front of them. I would not be surprised if you see Dawson go to a left wing back. If Dawson goes to left wing back, I think you could see Patterson go to be a center back and be a third center back pairing. I think that's certainly an option, but that's kind of our current 11. Okay, so I want to just talk about the who's leaving. And I mentioned Alex Cronale, Mikey Lopez, and Prosper Kasim. I want to start off with Mikey Lopez, the first ever captain of this club. He was the number one. He was someone who got it. He connected with the fans. He started coaching with Alabama FC. He really started getting with the just hanging out with the kids and coaching the kids, and it was awesome. It's going to be really sad not having Mikey around, and who knows, maybe he sticks around Birmingham as a coach, but it's going to really hurt not seeing Mikey around. He had some incredible moments. He was the one that got on the end of the MVO assist in Charlotte in 2020. He was the one that got that goal, and I mean, it was just awesome to see. Alex Cronale, he's been around for 4 years now, and he's been a staple, man, and he's been nothing but kind to me. Him and his wife, and by the way, just a beautiful child they have. You know, it's someone that I didn't know if he was going to leave Birmingham until he retired. He seemed like one of those guys. Alex was genuinely nothing but good to me, and I've only heard the same from just about everybody. Alex is just a genuinely great guy, and it's going to really suck not having him around. If he continues to play, I just cannot wish him the best of luck. And then Prosper Kasim. This is where I am going to move away from being borderline journalist podcaster, and I'm just going to be a fan. Prosper Kasim is my all-time favorite athlete at this point. He's my all-time favorite athlete. He was Birmingham. He did everything that you wanted out of Birmingham. He came to us as like a 22-year-old, and he scored the first ever goal. Funny thing about that goal, the person who assisted the first ever goal in Birmingham Legion history was Eric Avila, who is the assistant coach for Birmingham. Fun little fact for you. And it was at Louisville City after a rain canceled the game, and they had to play it at 10 a.m. Prosper Kasim gets on the end of one and opens up Legion score sheet with a chip of his golden left boot. Then he scores at home versus, I believe it was Loudon. And my favorite thing is like just seeing babyface Prosper scream, taking his shirt off and running over to the fans. Babyface Prosper, just a young kid who just came from Sweden, who just left from Ghana. And, you know, Goodman, Joe Goodman wrote an amazing article that I find myself reading every few months, where he talks about how he would send money back home to his mom after he was pretty much banned from playing soccer because they didn't want him to do that. They want him to get an education. They did not want him to do soccer. And he did it anyway. And it worked out that he didn't even drive himself anywhere. He didn't have a vehicle because he just sent all of his money back home. He was someone who defied the odds, was a real just blue collar guy. and worked so hard. And he was and should have been the face of Birmingham Legion. And for me, he is. He, I mean, Prosper Kasim is the embodiment of Birmingham Legion FC. He is Birmingham to his core, worked hard, cared for his family, still does, of course, and put his soul into his team. He was our first ever 100 appearance guy. Prosper Kasim, the first ever 100 appearances, first ever goal, first ever home goal, first ever home playoff goal. Do you remember that goal against Pittsburgh where we opened the goals scoring in like the 70-something minute, where it was a free kick to a chip from Juan Agudelo to a header to Prosper Kasim? It was unbelievable. Prosper was the guy that scored the goal versus Charlotte, the first ever goal versus an MLS opponent that really counted in an Open Cup match. Prosper was the one that shot the ball that ended up being a handball versus Inter Miami that didn't count. That's what he did. I mean, he has so many clutch goals. Clutch goals. If you needed a goal, you just need running down the right-hand side that he would cut one onto the inside and just curl it or absolutely just whack it to the far post and right into the top corner, because that's what Prosper did. And he was just a quiet, soft-spoken guy to everybody. He would shake your hand, smile, and kind of move on. And that was Starboy. That's Prosper Kasim. And some people have noticed and kind of told me about how his graphic is no longer part of the Instagram release. They are no longer thanking Prosper Kasim for his services, which has a lot of people thinking that maybe he's coming back. And me waxing poetically about what Prosper Kasim did, if it comes out in a couple of days that Prosper is coming back, then I'll keep this as I just love the guy. I absolutely love the guy. He's everything this club should be. And no matter what it is, no matter when his tenure for Legion ends, whether it did end when the press release came out, or if he has a new contract and it ends sometime later, whenever it is, build the statue, make it a golden left boot. Whatever it is, you honor that guy. He should be Legion's first ever inductee into the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, because Prosper Kasim embodies what Birmingham is. So, all that to say, this is all of our info. This is all the stuff that we kind of have right now. I'm going to kind of put up again the best 11 or our starting 11, where we have open spots up top. We have open spots on the right back, and we have an open spot in center back. I do believe that center back is our top priority. I think that striker should be number 2, because I think you have a great option in Preston. I think right back from there is your third priority, and then central midfield is going to be your fourth. Obviously, you want to sprinkle players absolutely everywhere, but that's the way I would go. That is my personal opinion, and that's that. Once we get some more news, I'll obviously upload a new video, and let me know if the video style works for you. If you're, on podcast player, nothing changed for you. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you all so much. Until next time, guys. Keep hammering on.